Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and it's that spooky time of year again where I get to take a look at a bunch of random ass animes that are horror related. So I had a lot of fun doing it last year, and well, figured I might as well do it again, and this time the first one I'm going to be starting off with is Demon Prince Enma, and it was created by Go Nagai himself, which is always interesting. But this one is actually kinda sorta like a soft reboot to another series that he worked on many years ago called Doron Enma-kun. So the difference between the two is that the original series was actually a more lighthearted fun adventure, while this one is more dark, serious, and probably edgier. So I guess if you think about it, this is kinda like a more modern take of the original concepts of Doron Enma-kun. So with that said, let's talk about the story first. So it takes place within the modern times, but it follows the four main characters being demons. So the first one is named Enma, just like the one in the title. He is the fire demon who happens to look like a wizard. And because of that, you can probably tell that he's a bit of a hot-headed type of character, and that he is. But I should also mention that his hat is actually alive and has his own personality. The hat, his name is Shopi. In some ways, Enma's character does kind of remind me a little bit of Vampire Hunter D, and I'm not just saying that because he happens to have a big hat, but it's the fact that he has like a character with him always on his side, but this time the roles are kind of reversed, where the character himself is kind of a smartass, while the hat is actually more drop-dead serious. And then the other demon is named Yukihime, who happens to be an ice demon, and she has worked with Enma for a long time. And finally we have his Kappa Aru, who happens to be a Kappa demon who has been living on Earth for many years, so therefore he is more in the know with modern society. As an example, he uses a cell phone, while the other two characters are like, the fuck is a cell phone? So what do all these characters do within the modern world? Well, they have to try and like track down demons and kill them because they escaped from hell and are roaming the Earth, and causing a lot of bad shit to happen, like possessing a lot of people. But just to make a cover-up about all this, they happen to be running a detective agency, but like I said, they're just using it as a cover-up, and they don't give a shit about the money. In fact, Kappa Aru is actually the one that gets all the money and blows it off on a bunch of stupid things. And one of those stupid things is blowing it off on whores. Yeah, it wouldn't be a Go Nagai anime if they didn't go to like a strip joint or some sort of cabaret club. So in certain aspects, this anime does remind me a lot of Nightwalker's Midnight Detective. But before we move on, there is two other characters I would like to mention that do reoccur, and that happens to be Detective Naojiro. So like I said, he's a detective who takes a look at all the crimes that happen whenever a demon is involved. And then you got a journalist named Yuri who is trying to look for this figure that looks like a vampire, and of course that's supposed to be Enma, and she thinks that Enma is the one behind all these murders happening. So that pretty much sums up everything you need to know about this one, and yeah, the story is pretty straightforward, nothing too confusing. So now let's get moving on and start talking about the show's animation, and I think it's pretty decent. So here's what I do like about it, is that I do like the art direction, I do really like the character designs, and of course I really do love the backgrounds of this one. They're very dark and gritty and suit it perfectly. And the animation flow on it is alright. It's not great, but you know, it's okay, it's serviceable. But probably my least favorite part about this one, at least when it comes to animation wise, is that this one does use some 3D effects in it, and yeah, they're pretty bad. At least they do try to keep it to a minimal, but even still, there's still a few parts in here that I'm just like, that just looks so bad. Like, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. For an example, with the episode with the creepy looking doll, like, every single shot that the doll is always in this, like, poorly cheesy 3D animated look, and it just looks really bad. Like, now I get that it's supposed to look creepier, and I guess it kinda does, but I just felt like if they just would have made it look like everything else, it would have looked fine. But other than this one thing though, I do think that the animation in this one is really not that bad at all. I just feel like it could have been a little bit better, but it still does have its strong points. And now, as for the show's music, I think it's actually pretty good. Now I will say, there's not a whole lot of music within this one, but I feel like it kinda works with it. It's mostly atmospheric stuff, and a little bit of some old traditional Japanese music. And I feel like it sounded really good with this anime, it really fit well. Like, yeah, it is a little unfortunate that there's no, like, catchy tunes or anything like that, but I feel like for what they were trying to go with for the music, it worked well. But if there is one song that is pretty fucking awesome, that would have to be the ending theme. That one is pretty kick-ass, and I can highly recommend it. And now, as for the show's voice acting, as far as I know, I don't think this one ever got a dub, so because of that, I can't really comment much here. But as far as I can tell, it sounded like it fit the tone and it didn't sound annoying or anything, so I guess that's always a plus. So okay, now, as for my overall thoughts on Demon Prince Enma, is that I actually found this one to be pretty enjoyable. So the story in general was pretty simple, but it was good fun. And despite the fact that this one is a much more serious series compared to the original one, it actually still has its funny parts, but it's nothing over the top and campy though. But I felt like it fit with the characters well. But as for the characters themselves, well, I did find that they were pretty interesting enough and they did have some good moments, but unfortunately, they are a little on the one-dimensional side and don't get a whole lot of growth, and I feel like with the fact that this is a 4-episode OVA and they had like a little bit more episodes, I feel like they could have done something a little more with it. But for what it is, I do find that the characters were likable and fun enough. Just not anything overly amazing and mind-blowing, and that's fine. And when it comes to recommendations, yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I mean, it's only 4 episodes long, so it's not long at all. But I will give you a word of warning that this one does have some mild nudity and some ecchi moments, but nothing over the top, of course, but just something I'd figure I'd let you all know, because I have a feeling some people would probably hate the shit out of that. But personally, that didn't bother me at all, because, well, I'm used to seeing weird shit. But if you are familiar with Go Nagai's other work and you haven't seen this one, I do think it is worth a watch for that it is a pretty solid show. Definitely not like his best thing he's ever done, but a pretty good one nonetheless. And I'd definitely be interested in wanting to read the books since there's quite a few of them out there. And maybe at some point in the future I might have to take a look at the original one with a very different tone.